Anyhow, we were going to do Bryden and Jimmy together. They're both being honored with the program change because I'm trying to frame this and do both of them. And I thought I'd be up here too long and be tired of listening to me, so we're going to break it up. But it's my pleasure to speak about the involvement of the late Dr. Bryden MacDonald and Jim Kavanagh in Cold Bowl. I was honored to work with both of these gentlemen, and I have the utmost respect for both men and all they have accomplished. Two of the most prestigious awards at Cold Bowl are the J. Bryden MacDonald Trophy, which goes to the championship team, and the Jim Kavanagh Leadership Award, which goes to a player from a visiting team who shows leadership in school and community. You'll understand why these awards are presented as I provide details of Bryden's and Jimmy's contribution to Cold Bowl. I'm feeling great pressure tonight to get this right and relive their impact. The impact of Cold Bowl in Waterford has also been well documented. The tournament has put Waterford on the map across our great country. Almost anywhere you go in Canada, you will run into someone who's heard about the Cold Bowl. It has done so much to raise the profile of our community from a positive perspective. Cold Bowl has the right template from a visionary, the right community, the right volunteer base, and the right leadership to be long-lasting and successful. Other communities have tried to copy it, namely Moncton and Sussex, but they were unable to duplicate Cold Bowl. But Cold Bowl just didn't happen. Actually, the idea came from Russell McNeil, and he articulated his thoughts to me in the parking lot at Beck in the winter of 1980 after one of our basketball games. As basketball coach, I thought his idea was great, but dismissed it as pie in the sky concept, which couldn't possibly happen. I let it go for a while in no hurry to advance the idea, but Russell kept bugging me to test it out on Bryden. More about that later. Bryden MacDonald was born in Grand Myra and was the son of the Angus J. and Annie Jane MacDonald. Bryden spent most of his formative years living in Glace Bay. He started school at St. Anne's, and Marie tells me that as family history has it, Bryden climbed out the window on his very first day of school and ran home. Very strange behavior for a guy who would spend the rest of his life in school. Bryden graduated from St. Anne's High School in 1950, and after graduating from St. Yves in 56, Bryden returned to teach at St. Anne's, becoming the only male teacher on a staff of nuns and other females. In 1957, Bryden married the love of his life, Marie Roach, who is here with us today. Together they raised 5 wonderful children, Marilyn, Maureen, Bryden Jr., Alan, and Lauren. Bryden's family are well represented here this evening. Accompanying Marie and her husband, John Campbell, are Bryden's daughters, Marilyn and Maureen. Chuck Ash, Marilyn's husband, as well as Bryden's grandchildren, Megan Campbell, Don MacDonald, Callan Bryden MacDonald, and Kieran Francis MacDonald. Regretfully, Bryden's 3 sons, Bryden Jr., Alan, and Lauren, are unable to attend this evening. And I think we have a special guest this evening as Bryden's first great-grandchild, Charlotte Elizabeth, the beautiful 6-month-old daughter of Megan, has decided to join us. Welcome, everyone. She laughed, did she? Okay, she was here anyway. She got a taste of it. After a stint as a teacher at St. Michael's High School in Glace Bay and a position of superintendent of schools in Sherbrooke, Nova Scotia, Bryden was appointed principal of Bryden Education Center, which opened in 1970. Actually, Bryden was appointed the year before and spent a year planning for the most modern school in the province. A school of 2,200 students with all the bells and whistles, 2 gyms, an amphitheater, great student-teacher ratio, advanced courses for brighter students. A Cadillac school, both physically and academically, in the metropolis of Waterford. Dr. Laffin, Dr. Dan Nadeson, and Frank Ongo were the architects of that acquisition, and wisely chose Bryden as the first principal. Bryden completed the requirements for his doctorate degree from the University of Wisconsin in 1974. Now back to Russell McNeil, bugging me in 1980. I reluctantly approached Bryden with the idea of a national high school basketball tournament. I didn't know Bryden that well, as I'd only been coaching at Beck for a few months, having come from coaching at UCCB. I was prepared for a 5-minute cordial session with Bryden where he would placate me and tell me he would consider the idea, but he'd have to think about it, and then he'd get back to me. However, much to my dismay, Bryden jumped on the idea and spent 1 whole hour telling me how we could pull this off, how good it would be for the community, and how it would bring the school and the community together. He articulated how it should be organized with a balance of school and community leadership, and how we should celebrate our rich mining and basketball history throughout the tournament. Wow, I was dumbfounded. I didn't realize Bryden was such a visionary, and I left his office pumped with him convincing me that it could be done. And now for the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. Under Bryden's leadership, we formed our first Coal Bowl committee. The committee consisted of several of the doers in school and some of the town's most influential citizens. Donnie Blackwood, Bozo Steele, Bram Swartz, Mark McPherson, and Dr. Claude MacDonald, to name a few. Our first major task was to seek permission from the Waterford School Board. A week-long tournament was one thing, but suggesting that teams stay in school was a concept that bewildered them. We spent a good 3 months of meetings and did lots of lobbying with individual board members. Bryden was at his best in those meetings. He was very strong, very passionate, very convincing. After months of meetings and lobbying, the school board reluctantly consented, and then our work really began. On Sunday, January 17th, 1982, after over a year and more of planning, 150 players and coaches from across the country landed at Bryden Education Center. The fun was just beginning. All the things that are routine to Coal Bowl now were implemented for the first time. Player identification, team orientation, the first meals in the cafeteria, teams checking into their bunk-bedded classrooms where they would spend their first night together, the infamous coaches mixer, and of course the Coal Bowl concert. Bryden was at his best that day. I can still remember how proud he was as he welcomed the visiting teams, and how everything went smoothly. Everybody was jacked. The first day was a huge success organizationally, and the game starting the next day, we had a lot to look forward to, if we'd only known. I stayed with our team that night and got up at 6 a.m. to go home and get ready for my real job in Mount Carmel. Somebody would say I never really had a real job. It took me a half hour to get into my car in the parking lot. His car was covered with ice, as it was 30 below out, with a raging wind. The wind chill that day was off the chart. On the way home, as I listened to the radio, I heard that school was canceled for the day and wondered how that would affect our first day of play. Little did I know. Around 11 o'clock, I hopped in my car, which fortunately was still able to start, and headed to the school to get a good seat for the first game. As I walked into the office to touch base with Bryden, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Pandemonium at its best. The office area was completely flooded. Bryden was running around with his shirt sleeves rolled up and barking out instructions to anybody who would listen. What a scene. One of the teachers on the senior floor, I won't mention any names, had left the transit window open on Friday afternoon, and with the cold snap, the sprinkler system froze and busted with huge quantities of water running through the school from floor to floor. The Coles Notes version of this was that school was canceled in town for 2 days. The other schools, all schools in town were canceled for 2 days because people were having major problems starting their cars, the pipes were bursting in homes, and it was also a nightmare at Beck because of the flood. So it was closed an extra day. So the first Coal Bowl for the first Coal Bowl, school was canceled for 3 days. How would that affect our crowds? As it turns out, Bryden had a few more obstacles to overcome that first Monday. It had withered the storm and the flood, so to speak, and we were getting ready for the opening ceremonies and Beck's first game at 8 o'clock. During the planning stages, I was asked to provide an estimate of the number of spectators that would attend. I recall projecting around 500 a game, with maybe another 200 for the Beck and St. Michael's games. Well, as most people know, we put our tournament passes out at Christmas, and to our dismay, on the days leading up to the tournament, we had completely sold out. We had chairs and portable bleachers in every conceivable place in the gym. We had a capacity for about 1,500, but sold about 1,800 tournament passes, figuring people would not attend every game. Duh. We should have known that everyone with a ticket would be at the Beck game. I didn't witness this firsthand as I was with my team getting ready for the first game and of course opening ceremonies. But despite the cold weather, people were lined up early in the outside foyer and into the parking lot in order to get a good front row seat. As legend has it, and this is definitely a true story, there was a huge number of people without passes who thought they could pay at the door. And Bryden was out there with them, explaining to them that there would be no admission at the door. Some of our very prominent citizens were very irate. I won't mention any names, but I know of a few. But Bryden stood tall and tackled the issue as he always did, head on. His sister was one of those. She didn't get in. Bryden's first day at Cold Bowl was very challenging, but he showed the leadership that we came to expect from him. The rest of the week got better for Bryden and the board of directors, and the inaugural tournament ended up being a huge success beyond anyone's wildest dreams. But maybe not Bryden's, because what he envisioned that day, I approached him in his office, had actually happened. And those that know Bryden know that he didn't rest on his laurels. So soon after the completion of the first tournament, he was busy planning for the next. Planning to make it bigger and better. Planning for fashion shows with a $10,000 ramp to use it as a fundraiser. God bless Steve Rankin and Wayne Antler from DEFCO. Planning for an educational curriculum which resulted in the publishing of a book, Cape Breton, a Select Few, written by Ray Kavanagh and Martin Swartz, two Beck teachers. Think about it. What a forward-thinking idea, visiting players studying Cape Breton history from a book written by two local teachers, and writing a test for scholarship money. Bryden was relentless as he strengthened the organization and continually worked to make the tournament better. Bryden presided over 8 tournaments before passing in 1989. He fought a long battle with leukemia and continued to work as principal and chair of Cold Bowl, never complaining, never letting up. He loved New Waterford and its people. He loved Breton Education Center and was so proud of his students and all their accomplishment. He was such a visionary and a doer, a rare combination. In the end, he left us with a great legacy, Cold Bowl. And I can assure you that without Bryden MacDonald, there would be no Cold Bowl. Great dreams of great dreamers are always transcended. We are still living Bryden's dream as Cold Bowl still continues to flourish to this day. I'm going to ask Marie to come forward now and accept the plaque in recognition of Bryden's induction into the New Waterford and District Sports Hall of Fame as a builder. Marie?
As Lowell would say, I'm really pumped now. It's wonderful to see all our old friends from Waterford and to just remind you of how much we loved living here and how happy we were here. Now, my family's over there, my 2 daughters and their husbands and that, but I have 3 sons that aren't here tonight. They would love to be here, so they've each sent a little note that I hope you don't mind if I read that now. First one is from the youngest son, Warren, who lives in Vancouver. Dad was very proud of the Cold Bowl. He worked long and hard to make it a reality because he loved his students and was proud of them in everything they did, not just basketball. As we know, the Cold Bowl was not only about basketball. Dad wanted to introduce schools across Canada to Beck and New Waterford. He wanted to bring them all here to this small, cold town on Cape Breton Island, for his students to meet and share in what it means to come together in a true spirit of competition. He was always teaching. My siblings and I are proud of our father and what he did in his life as a father and an educator. It makes us very happy to know that Waterford shares in that pride. Thank you so much for remembering and honoring our father in this way. Now I have 2 more to go. Hello from Vancouver. I'm the 4th of Bryden and Marie's 5 kids. This is Al. And while I couldn't be there to share in this special evening, I'll be in Cape Breton at the end of the month and look forward to visiting the Hall of Fame display. For the inaugural Coal Bowl in 1982, I was a grade 11 student at Sydney Academy. Not just my friends, but even teachers were asking me for tickets. Of course, the tournament had been long sold out, so I couldn't help them. I especially enjoyed breaking this news to my math teacher, of whom I was not very fond. But I remember my father telling me about the Coal Bowl a few years earlier, when it was still in the idea stage. He told me why he thought it would work and why it would last, and that was because it would be about more than basketball. Even back then, he described the Coal Bowl to me, not as a basketball tournament, but as a cultural exchange and an educational experience for students from other parts of Canada. In fact, when my father and I talked about the Coal Bowl, he rarely mentioned basketball, yet he would grow quite animated when he talked about this vision of having hundreds and ultimately thousands of students from across Canada getting the opportunity to experience life in a small maritime community. Looking back now, as a man myself, that's Alan speaking, I can see it very clearly. It was not basketball that Dad loved. It was New Waterford that he loved. It was Cape Breton that he loved. And more than anything else, it was education that he loved. It is these elements that are the very essence of the Coal Bowl. They are the things that set it apart and make it unique. And these are the reasons why it carries on in this day and will carry on into the future. So that's number 2. And here's number 3. This is Bryden Jr. I'm very happy that my father, Dr. Bryden MacDonald, is being inducted into the New Waterford Sports Hall of Fame this evening. Dad loved New Waterford and Breton Education Centre. He was a great educator. He took his work very seriously. When he put his mind to something, he was like a dog with a bone. But there was always room for levity. He was a passionate man. The Coal Bowl is one of many things that are a result of this passion. He would be very pleased with how this annual tournament has grown over the years, bringing young people from across the country together to participate in healthy competition and likely forming lifelong friendships. Dad treated everyone equally. He was a clear communicator. He always employed the benefit of the doubt. He was loyal and trustworthy and a good listener. He cared about his students, their ideas, and their dreams. His children also benefited from that compassion. He allowed us to choose our own paths and supported our decisions, though I'm sure there were many times when he was left shaking his head. Still, he was always there when we dropped the ball. To this day, I cannot recall how many times people have taken the time to tell me things like, "Your father was a great man," or "Your father's the reason I stayed in school." He was a wonderful dad, and though we still miss him very much, he is kept alive as a result of the palpable influence he had on others. Now, Dad was not perfect. It's no secret that no matter how much he loved it or how hard he tried, he was, without a doubt, the worst charades player ever. But I feel confidence in saying that charades was the only time when he was the last one chosen to be on the team. I hope you'll all have a wonderful evening. I'm sorry I can't be there. Tell some stories, as many of as you know. Dad had a goofy sense of humor and could be a master prankster at times. And dance, he'd like that. Cheers, Bryden MacDonald Jr.